Congressman Johnson, it's so nice to see you.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me for our Biofuel Champion video conversation series. Really good to see you. Glad to hear that you're doing well. Just want to have a conversation with you, share it with our membership and our supporters. Let's start out very top line. Why is supporting biofuels and the farmer so important to you and so important to South Dakota?
Well, there are probably 5 or 6 or 7 reasons. And anytime one of my colleagues who doesn't come from a corn state questions support of ethanol, it's all they can do to get away from me 10 minutes later as I have, wrapped my arms around them and forced them to listen to all of these different value propositions. A lot of my colleagues do care about the price of corn, and clearly biofuels puts upward pressure on the price of corn. To me, that's important, but it's only one answer. I mean, I love energy independence. I love the fact that we give consumers the opportunity to choose. We know that consumers prefer putting E10 or E15 or E30 in their gas tank when they're given the opportunity. I love the fact that this is rural job creation. I mean, many places where these plants are located, they would not have the kind of vibrant economy they have if it wasn't for 3 dozen or 4 dozen really great jobs in those communities. So when you look at all of these panoply of reasons, it is easy in my mind to be a biofuels advocate.
You recently joined 30 of your colleagues in the House as part of the bipartisan Biofuels Caucus in sending a letter to Senate leadership urging them to, in the next package of COVID relief, make sure that they included biofuels producers specifically. Tell me more about that effort, and what do you think it's going to mean for your constituents and for the state?
Well, and I'm not a big handout guy. I mean, and so when I send the kind of letter like you're referring to, it is, in my mind, proof that an industry has really gone through the valley of shadow of death. They've gone through more than their fair share of pain. I mean, times were difficult in biofuels 6 months ago and 9 months ago. And I wasn't saying we needed to create some, new government program to help them. We understand that there are going to be ups and downs in the markets. But look what has happened since. We had Russia and Saudi Arabia just decide that they were going to bilaterally change the economics around globally the price of fuel. And even then, I wasn't saying that we needed to make sure we were handing out hundreds of millions to biofuels. And then COVID came and really hit, and the number of vehicle miles traveled in this country fell in half. And when you have all of these things, one after another, fall on an industry, if we want to maintain domestic generation of fuel, if we want to continue the energy independence that we know is so critical to national security, we have got to be able to give these biofuels producers a little flexibility to be able to get through these difficult times. And so that letter was a no-brainer for me. And I'm happy to report that when I talk to my colleagues in the Senate and in the House, by and large, they get it. And to the extent that we get a COVID-19 package done in the course of the next couple of weeks, I don't have any doubt that it's going to include help for processors.
You're totally right. We as an industry, we want to focus on the road to recovery. We want to regain that momentum that we had before COVID, excitement nationwide for higher blends of ethanol. You and I both know what we need. For that to happen, we need certainty, we need stability, we need market access. We need small refinery exemptions to be addressed once and for all. So you've done a lot of work and leadership in this area. Talk to me a little bit about that and why it's so critical for biofuel producers and farmers that we get our hands around SREs and we address them once and for all.
Well, you're exactly right about the role of predictability, and we see that with farmers. I mean, they know Congress doesn't control the weather, but next to weather, what they most crave is predictability. They want to understand what the landscape, what the environment looks like, and of course that's true on the processor level as well. And when you have an EPA that can, just make 4 billion gallons of demand disappear over the course of a couple of years, that sends a very strong message to the marketplace that you are making investments on very unstable ground. And of course that scares away investment. It can scare away employment. It can scare away this incredible leadership, global leadership that our country has in biofuels. I mean, this is not some industry that emerged 30 years ago and has remained static ever since. Every year we are getting better at creating fuel out of these naturally renewing, naturally occurring agricultural products. And we get more efficient and we are able to do more with less. That doesn't happen on its own. It requires investment, and investment needs predictability. And that's why I have been so angry at these SREs. And one of the first major pieces of legislation that I put my shoulder to was working with Ag Chairman Colin Peterson. He's a Democrat, I'm a Republican, but we understand that these SREs have been just toxic to the biofuels industry. And so we put in the RFS Integrity Act, which made it very clear that EPA was not going to be able to play fast and loose with this issue anymore. And I think we played a not insignificant role in making sure that the administration did what it did. Now, that was welcome news. These gap year SREs, though, have the potential, those 80 have the potential to make another 2 billion gallons of demand disappear. We cannot abide that demand destruction.
It really is mind-boggling when you look at how much has been destroyed from SREs so far and what's still on deck with the 86 pending SREs before EPA. Thank you for that. In a few short weeks, we're going to be moving to our Biofuel Summit. We're going to be having a virtual fly-in with our members in Washington, D.C., talking to elected officials like yourself. Tell me why it's so important for you to hear directly from our members, from our supporters, from the biofuels industry directly.
Right. Well, part of the difficulty in Congress is that on any given day, you can be dealing with 10 or 12 of 1,000 different issues. And so the meeting I had just prior to this one was an incredibly technical and complex discussion on cryptocurrency. And the one prior to that dealt with human trafficking. And the one prior to that dealt with commodity derivatives. I mean, all of these things, it is hard to be an expert on any of them, much less all of them. And the beautiful thing about fly-ins or about experts from the field getting connected with members of Congress is it focuses our attention, even if only for 15 or 20 or 30 minutes. It focuses our attention on what we need to know about the clear and present dangers to those industries, or maybe the emerging opportunities for those industries. And it gives us an opportunity to go from maybe 3 on a 10-point scale to 4 or 5 on a 10-point scale. And to the extent that that's replicated across hundreds of members, you raise the biofuels IQ of Congress in a way that makes some successes possible in a way that they would not have been in a vacuum. And so thank you for the investment of time because it really does make a difference.
So well said. The biofuels IQ of Congress. I like that. I'm going to use that phrase. Thank you for your time. I look forward to talking with you again in a couple of weeks. Stay well. We'll talk soon.
Thanks much.
Thank you.